you and what do you do?
My name is Randy Ammons, and I head up human resources at a company called US Fertility. And US Fertility basically provides the back end or non clinical services to fertility practices around the country. The biggest of which is Shady Grove Fertility, which is based in the Metro DC area.
And take us back to how you first stepped into HR. I'd love to hear the story.
Well, it took kind of a little bit of a winding road. The reality is, I went into law first. I never planned on going to law school until late in my college career, but a couple of professors talked me into it. I liked people. I decided I wanted to do labor and employment law. I come from the Midwest, so labor was a natural because certainly a lot of unions. Labor and employment, always did company side. And I went back to Cleveland and I practiced law for about 14 years and I worked with HR professionals throughout that time. And it took me that long to finally figure out I liked what they did better than what I did. So I became one of them. And I joined HR. I went inside a company. I spent 1 year technically in the legal department, but with a dotted line to the head of HR. And after a year, she and the general counsel asked if I would be okay if they switched my solid line and dotted line. And I became part of the HR team, and I've not looked back since. And that was 14 years ago.
I guess you were in the right position to transition your careers. It seems like people that you were with helped you get that first step, and then it learned a lot of what was the responsibilities for becoming an HR executive, and learned that it was a great role for you. And then was the transition pretty seamless, or?
Yeah, it was natural, and it was something where a great opportunity for me. I was successful on some fronts. I mean, I think a lot of people would point to things like financial, and financially, I was doing very well. But I wasn't really happy what I was doing, and I had the good fortune to be able to see um, what my clients were doing, and my clients were HR folks at various different levels, at various different size companies. I loved what they did. I wanted to do that, and so that's what I really set out to do after I finally came to that conclusion: is okay, how do I get to be one of them? And belatedly was able to become one of them.
Super cool. And then after you got your first job in HR, I guess you would call it, even though it's more of a transition,
Mhm.
how did you ensure continued career growth?
Well, for me, there was a handful of things. Some of it was, boy, I knew some things really, really well. The legal aspects, of course, of labor and employment area. I knew those cold. So I would call myself a compliance expert. But what I didn't know was a lot of the financial pieces of that you learn at a company. I think those frankly are key skills for anybody. Is as basic as it sounds. Learn how your company makes money. I can point to something simple like a bakery that might make 50 different things, but 45 of them that might be break even or even loss leaders where they make all their money off of five products. Well, you need to know what five products those are. You need to know how your company makes money. That was a key for me. Another key was learning how some of the things outside of the compliance area fit in, some of the performance management pieces, trying to learn how all the pieces that I didn't know, how they all fit in with what I did know. And so thankfully, there were plenty of people that I've worked with at the companies I've been at who were glad to share their knowledge. And I always try to tap into people who did something different than me and whose knowledge base was different than mine because I could learn so much from other people.
Interesting. And then, while you're going about this journey, you're picking up on different skills that you may be using daily, weekly. Talk to us about some of the important HR skills that help you.
Well, I think there's a few things that I saw in my own career and that I see today from folks on my team. I think one thing that folks need to, and really anybody needs to do when they come into a company in HR is know that you're going to be working with lots of different levels within the organization, and that what you say and how you say it at different levels is critical. So you need to learn how do you work with, you know, your VP of finance versus somebody who's just walking in the door, say as a medical assistant, understand and communicate the way that they want to be communicated with. The longer you're at a company, the more you'll get to know individuals as well. But learning how to communicate with people, how they want to be communicated with, and how they learn and how they really expect to be talked to is really important. It's not all going to be textbook the way that you might walk in the door thinking. So I think learning about the different levels of leadership and how they need to be spoken with is important, but also understanding, I think for HR in general, I think for folks in HR, it's really important to understand what the business is actually doing, because there's a focus of obviously in human resources on the human aspect of it, but people in HR need to know how it all fits in from a company perspective. And the business leaders will tend to have more respect for folks in HR when it's clear that the folks in HR who are talking to them understand there's certain challenges that they're facing, whether it's increasing production of something or selling a good or service more. What is the challenge that business leader is facing? And understanding that and understanding what their challenges they're facing and being able to propose solutions that will help them and further your goals in human resources at the same time will get you very far. It's not a matter of just coming up with a canned thing and taking it to them. You need to know how it fits in.
I couldn't agree more. I think understanding who the stakeholders are and being able to communicate with them is so key. And today we are moving to more of a data-driven world where we're communicating more and more in terms of data, and we're getting asked to provide more data. And sometimes we have to do that with tools. And I'm curious, what are the tools that help you with your day-to-day operations or weekly operations to do your job more effectively?
And that's a great question. You're right. Things are changing, by the day almost. And technology in the time that I've been here has just been crazy. The things we're doing today, I wouldn't have even dreamed of it being possible 15 years ago. The data is critical. Understanding what data the decision makers within your organization, it could be the top of HR, or it could be the CEO or other CFO, other business leaders. What information do they look at and how do they get it? Is it through a data analytics tool like a Power BI or something to that effect? Are they looking at dashboards? If they are, what information are they looking at? Are they looking at information on the dashboard that is coming out of an HRIS system? What information is that? Those are the kind of pieces that I look to. And if I think they're looking at information, for instance, that I don't think is very helpful, then it's my job to help point that out and suggest other forms of information. So it is about driving data. But you've got to capture the data in the first place, and you have to have a system that can handle that. So it's definitely a lot of work with HRIS. It's a lot of work with IT ultimately to produce the right reports that go forward, and then even at a level that it's really the same as it was 30 years ago. Something that has remained somewhat the same is the question comes up every time on almost every subject. Every company's leader wants to know, well, what are other people doing? Is this normal? And that question comes up. I don't care what the subject is. Benchmarking. You get the question about, well, from a benchmark standpoint, where do we fit in? And that's always a great question. You don't want to necessarily be the outlier who's doing too much or too little. There's a lot of resources out there, and organizations like SHRM is certainly an organization that has a great deal of information. Tap into it. The membership is not that expensive. I'm not with SHRM. I'm not making any money off of it, but organizations like that will provide a great deal of data. So you can find out what's going on at other organizations, because you're going to get the question is, okay, that sounds like a good idea. What are other people doing? And you need to be able to answer that. So you have to be able to tap into the data from those kind of companies.
Makes a lot of sense. And we had talked about this a little bit earlier of you finding that HR was more of your passion. There's a lot of roles that you can do within HR, but you decided to become an HR executive. And I don't know if that was intent from the beginning, but you have this experience now of understanding what goes into picking an HR job that you'll enjoy. So if you could talk a little bit about that, that'd be great.
Sure. And, interestingly enough, I can talk about it fairly well. My son graduated from college less than 2 years ago, and he's what I would call entry level HR right now. And so I've worked with him on this very subject. And he's at a good, solid company, but it's not huge. He's certainly not alone. He's not the HR team. But he is able to dip his hands into all sorts of different things. And I think that's really important early in your career. If you're early in your career, see what all's out there. Some people are really set for, or their mind it works towards certain pieces within HR. It could be some sort of talent acquisition role. It could be a talent management role. It could be an HR business partner, compensation, benefits. I mean, there's all sorts of things. If you go to a really large corporation, you're going to get pigeonholed into something small, or not small, but narrow. And then it might be difficult to move sideways. If you're at a company that has some support, but it's not huge, you're probably going to dip your hands into all sorts of things, and you'll figure out what you like and you don't like. I see that with my son right now, already deciding, I don't really like that so much. I know the company needs that, so I'm going to do the best job I can at this, but I ultimately want to spend more time doing that. And I think that's really important. I think when you're looking for what you're going to do, but I think beyond the what, I think the one thing that a lot of HR folks, or it's not just necessarily HR, I think, but a lot of folks coming into businesses don't really put a lot of stock in that they should is do you like the people that you've met? You should be meeting people in the interview process, and they don't have to be your best friends. You don't have to be like, I would go out and go out to lunch with this person every day, and that's what I would really like to do. But you have to really like the people, and I think that's really important. I think it's something that you shouldn't overlook. And can you see yourself getting along with this person day in and day out? The people that you meet, really important, I think, for folks to really pay attention to.
And I think that's such an underappreciated initiative that people take before they get a job is just making sure that they're also interviewing the company and the people that they might be working with rather than it just being a one-way interview. And they often forget that because of the amount of pressure that they're under just to make sure that they progress further in the interview process. But it is, if you're working with these people often, upwards to 50, 60 hours a week sometimes, you really got to know if you want to work with them.
Yeah.
So
I agree, and I think in taking it even a step further, I think you got to like what the company does. It can't be you can't be necessarily altruistic about it, and I understand it's more money is going to come in for-profit world than non-profit, for instance. But you have to at least like what the company does, and you can be choosier about that as you move through your career. But that I think is also pretty underrated. Is people, you should be proud of where you work. You really should. If you're embarrassed to put on a hat with the company logo, that's a problem. That's a problem. You need to be able to do that.
And the next question is a bit more broad, and I just want to see where you take it, is where do you see the future of HR going? So there's, a number of different aspects, especially within the last just year of COVID happening and many companies moving to a more remote workforce. We also have the rise of social media, and we have the rise of data informing a lot of people analytics and being able to make hopefully better decisions.
Yeah, and I think you hit on the major topics, and I mean I think we have, where are people working, and of course right now, it's more remote than we probably would have ever imagined even a year ago. I think there's always going to be some remote, and I realize that some companies are saying it's all remote now. I struggle to think that would actually be the case, a few years from now. I think it'll be a mix, though. I can't imagine that we'll go back to people being in the office 5 days a week. But I don't think 100% remote is realistic for most workplaces. I think there'll be a good mix in the future. So I think that will certainly be a help. I think there will be more fully remote positions, but I think that the amount of companies, the number of companies doing that fully remote is probably going to be pretty limited. So I think that's one thing that certainly is going to change. When we talk about things like the data technology, with hard one to predict. I have no idea what's going to happen, except technology is going to be a massive factor in things going forward. Hopefully, we're going to be able to crunch more data, more ways to make even better decisions in the future. And on one hand, I think I will, but on one hand, it scares me because the more data that's out there and the more ways you can slice it, the more information that you're expected to provide. Could be a boom time for certain areas of HR from a reporting standpoint. I think the technical skills are going to continue to become more and more important as time goes along. But you mentioned one other thing I think that is absolutely critical that has been changing things for probably 8 to 10 years, and that's social media. I think social media is going to continue playing a massive role. I don't care what platform it is; it's going to be playing a massive role in a number of different areas within HR. I think the idea of recruitment or branding or recruitment marketing, employment branding, however you want to put that, is here to stay. No longer will you have the stock recruiting or talent acquisition team, which takes over some of the marketing materials that the marketing team's producing to find employees. Now, there's going to be employment branding, recruitment marketing, all on their own. It'll be consistent, but it will be different, and it will be tailored to the individual platforms that are out there. That's going to become more important as we move along, and the larger companies are going to have teams dedicated to doing just that. But I see HR working also very closely with communications teams in large companies or marketing teams or what have you, and smaller companies with how do you handle social media, employees on social media, customers on social media. What do you comment on? What do you not comment on? Who's got control over the platform? Who can actually answer things? Those are questions that have to get answered on a daily basis at a lot of companies, and it's only going to get bigger. So I see that as just becoming a boom thing for HR.
Now, with the industry changing so much, it also provides new hurdles that you may have to go through as a day-to-day as an HR executive, and you have to effectively communicate these hurdles and solve them. So can you talk about some of these common hurdles and the solutions to them as well?
Absolutely. I mean, I think from a hurdle standpoint, I think one of the hurdles that folks in that HR teams at most companies face is sometimes a lack of respect. And I don't mean that in necessarily a completely derogatory way, but the reality is that at many companies, the business drives things. It's the bottom line that drives decisions and gets the attention. Whereas sometimes HR, and a phrase I've used before is sometimes still at many major companies viewed as kind of party planning and policing things. But HR's got so much more to offer businesses. And I think that is a hurdle is that, there's going to be a certain segment of most companies where they view HR as almost a nice to have or have to have, because of various regulations or what have you. But they don't necessarily see how HR can help advance the business, which goes to your point of what's the solution is. You need to show how you can advance the business, which goes back to something I talked about before, which is getting that understanding of know your company, know how they make money, understand the finances, know where all that's coming from. Once you understand the business and you can demonstrate that you understand the business and that your solutions are actually helping to advance the business's goals overall, not just like one HR piece that you want to move forward, but really helping the business move forward. If you can do that, that builds the respect. And if you get a couple wins there, with various initiatives that you've proposed as a team, you're going to get the benefit of the doubt on some other things that you propose later that may be a little bit harder to define. So understanding the business will help you to gain the respect that you need, I think, to move forward. And I think that also goes to a phrase that people will talk about in HR is HR needs a seat at the table. I do believe that, and I believe at some companies still, HR doesn't always have a seat at the table. It's HR reports into operations or what have you. There, you don't have the head of HR necessarily always reporting to the CEO because it's almost somewhat of an afterthought, somewhat of a, yeah, we have to have this, but it's because generally the people in charge may not understand the value that HR can really bring or understand how HR can really move the business forward. Once they understand that, you'll have that seat at the table, you'll have that respect, and then you can really make a difference and people will see it.
I couldn't agree more. I think understanding the business is such a crucial aspect in providing alignment between your thoughts and what other executives are thinking. So that way they go, okay, he understands the business side. So whatever he's saying is going to come from that foundation as well. So they just appreciate it so much more.
Oh,
Now,
absolutely.
as an HR executive, many of these people who are watching this video are thinking about becoming an HR executive. What are some signs that the position is right for them?
Well, I think there's a few. One is like we talked about before, liking the people. You have to like the people. You don't want to have to go to work. I don't care if it's virtually or in person. You don't want to have to work with people that you're not happy to work with on a daily basis. So that's important. One other thing that I think and I've said this to my son who's entry level in HR is look for a company that's going to put tools in your toolbox. And I wish I could say I came up with the phrase, but somebody I worked with years ago who always said, and I think he was right, is, his job as a leader was to put tools in the toolbox of his employees, and hopefully they would use the tools with him at the company we were at. But if not, those were tools that they could put in their toolbox and take with them throughout their lives. So it could be certifications, it could be on-the-job training, it could be all sorts of different things. It could be experiences, on projects at work, but putting tools in the toolbox. And that's something that I look for. And that's what I think all people entering into HR need to look for. Are you going to a company that talks about how they're developing their employees and are they proving it? The people you're talking to, ask them, what have they gained at the company? What is the company doing to develop them? What is the company, what kind of learnings have they achieved? Look for companies that value that want to move people forward, both in and out of HR. I think that's really, really important is not underestimating the tools that you will want to have on your resume, the experiences that you'll want to have that you can take and move on elsewhere if need be, but also maybe to actually stay at that company for a while and move on. Is looking for those tools. And one of the things that goes along with it is learning. I think it's incumbent upon individuals to take advantage of the learning opportunities provided, but also seek out the learning opportunities when you join an organization. And by that, I mean, figure out what don't you know that would help you. For me, I did not have a financial background. I realized one of the things I desperately needed is the financial background. I knew the legal things, 6 ways to Sunday, I had it covered. What I didn't know was debt. I thought debt was a bad thing. How do you make money off the debt? How does this work? How does the general ledger system work? I learned how different things worked, or things I didn't know that made me actually feel uncomfortable because I didn't know it. Found the right people that I could learn from that didn't mind the finance 101 questions, for instance, and sought out those learning opportunities. There was no formal program on it. I just figured out what areas of the company were the least familiar to me, and that's exactly where I went to go learn. Because if I already knew it, people were coming to me to teach them. I wanted to figure out where do I need to go to learn. So I would always challenge everybody, take advantage of the learning opportunities provided to you, but seek out the things that you don't know.
Yeah, and I think such a big part of it is just taking the first steps to have an understanding of that ecosystem, and the more steps that you take, the more complete that ecosystem becomes, and the more encouragement that you have, because then you get to the point such as you did where, hey, all I need to do is learn finance, and now I have a really good understanding of this entire ecosystem. And yeah, it gives me a great picture of the company and how I can make recommendations. And that's the last piece, because I went through legal and I went through a lot of other hard steps, and now I got one more.
Yep. And I would encourage people to do it. It might feel uncomfortable, but the great thing is people in those kind of positions, they're happy that they have this knowledge and they want to share. It's not like you're bothering them. They want to share their knowledge with people who are thirsty to learn. And to your point, learning that ecosystem, that helps you not just in general, but to your point, once you understand that, you can put the pieces together and you can make your business case to move forward with your various HR initiatives so much better because you understand that ecosystem.
And before we hop here, I want to ask if there's any more advice that you have for the people who are watching that are interested in becoming an HR executive one day.
Yeah, my real advice is remember, learning that we were just talking about is a lifelong thing. So no matter where you go, there's always something more to learn. There's something more to learn within HR, with technology developments and what have you. As much as you rise up the ladder, you're always going to need to learn. And so figure out that within HR and outside of HR. And the other half of it is, if you've risen to the point where you've become an HR executive, then I think it's a duty that you have to share what you've learned along the way as well. So please share what you've learned. You're developing the future. And remember, at one point, the people coming to you asking for thoughts and how to do things or help with something, you were there. You were there. It might have been 20 years ago, it might have been 30 years ago, but you were there. So be there for them too and help them as they move along.
And Randy, just one last question. If students are looking to connect with you on LinkedIn, can they go ahead and do that?
Please, I encourage that. I am out there on LinkedIn, and my name is Randy, and my last name is Ammons. And I'm at US Fertility. So if you see those two things, I'm sure I'm the only one with that name at US Fertility. So please reach out to me. I'm glad to assist anybody in any way I can.
So thank you for being here and doing this interview with us. We really appreciate it. And if you guys want to connect with him, again, you can connect with him on LinkedIn. The chances are, if you're watching this video, that his LinkedIn URL will be in the description below to make it a little bit easier. And excited for you guys to go ahead and do that. And we'll go from here.
That sounds great. And thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.